Clark slings it over to Ho, wide open three. She got it.
So the defense was shading to the
Caitlin Clark. She's like a warrior on the court. If you thought Steph Curry had range, just wait until you see what Caitlin Clark is doing from distances that no one, and I mean no one, has any business attempting, let alone draining with ice in her veins and a crowd on its feet. She is absolutely ridiculous. She is unlike anything women's basketball has ever seen, and when you watch the footage we're about to take you through today, you are going to understand exactly why the basketball world, men's and women's, college and professional, casual fans, and hardcore analysts cannot stop talking about this woman. She does not just play basketball, she commands it. She owns every arena she walks into, and she does it with a fearlessness that is borderline supernatural. Today we are taking you through her deepest, most jaw-dropping shots of her entire career. From her record-breaking, history-rewriting college days at Iowa, to her fearless, unapologetic, take-no-prisoners transition into the WNBA, we are covering every era, every logo bomb, every impossible pull-up three that left defenders standing there with their hands on their heads, wondering how a human being is capable of doing what they just witnessed. This is not a highlight reel, this is a legacy in motion. This is the story of a Warriors, and it starts right now. Let's go back. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the phenomenon, because you cannot fully appreciate what Caitlin Clark means to the game of basketball without understanding where she came from and what she did before she ever set foot in a professional arena, before the bright lights of the WNBA, before the national television deals, before the sold-out arenas and the merchandise lines and the magazine covers. There was Iowa. There was a young woman in a Hawkeyes uniform doing things that made grown men and coaching staff stop mid-sentence, pull out their notebooks, and start scribbling frantically, just trying to capture what they were watching in real time. Caitlin Clark became the all-time leading scorer in women's college basketball history. Read that again. All-time leading scorer in the entire history of the sport at the collegiate level. That is not a stat you casually throw around. That is a stat that takes years of dominance, years of consistency, years of showing up night after night in arenas that were not always packed, in programs that did not always get the spotlight, and doing the extraordinary regardless. She put up numbers that redefined what was possible. She put up performances that drew comparisons not just to women's basketball legends, but to the best shooters the sport has ever produced, regardless of gender. Nearly 10 million people watched her final college games. 10 million. That number does not happen by accident. That number happens because word had spread so far, so fast, to so many corners of the basketball-loving world that people who had never watched a single minute of women's college basketball in their entire lives were suddenly clearing their Thursday nights and their Sunday afternoons to watch Caitlin Clark play. Families watched together, kids wore her jersey, bars put her games on. That is the power of a generational talent. She does not just grow an audience, she creates one from scratch. And the shots. Let's talk about the shots, because that is what we are here for. You have to guard Caitlin Clark even before she crosses half court. Let that sink in. Before she has even entered the front court, before she has set her feet, before she has surveyed the defense, you have to be locked in, both arms up, closing out hard, because if you give her even half a step of daylight anywhere on that side of the floor, she is pulling up, she is firing, and 9 times out of 10, the ball is rattling through the net before you have even finished your closeout. Logo threes. Pull up threes from the top of the key with a hand in her face. Step back threes off the dribble in transition. Off-balance threes that somehow still find the bottom of the net. She invented range at the college level. She redefined what the word range even means. The crowds. The crowds. You could feel the buzz in those Iowa arenas the moment Caitlin Clark touched the ball in the backcourt. A collective inhale, a held breath. The thousands of fans who had come specifically to see this moment, the moment she decided to let it fly from somewhere ridiculous. They knew it was coming before she did. They felt it. And when it went in, and it almost always went in, the place detonated. That roar, that wave of noise that rolled through the arena, that was not just celebration. That was validation. That was an entire crowd saying together, yes, we knew, we believed, we were right. She is everything. And she delivered every single time. The announcers, bless them, were often at a complete loss for words. There it is. Oh my. Yes, you bet. My goodness, what else can you say? What is there to add? When a player makes you run out of language, when the play is happening faster than your vocabulary can keep up with, you know you are witnessing something historic. There were games where the commentary basically devolved into gasping, into the kind of breathless, disbelieving laughter that comes out of you when something happens that your brain has not fully processed yet. That was Caitlin Clark in college. That was what she did to arenas, to opponents, to broadcasters, to the entire landscape of the sport, night after night after night. Is there any better passer right now from the backcourt? Even as we talk about the shooting, and we will get back to the shooting, do not worry because there is more. We cannot overlook what she does with the ball when she decides not to shoot. And some of her most unreal plays came from way beyond the arc, not as shots, but as laser-sharp dimes that found teammates in places that should not have been possible. She would draw the defense with the threat of the three, collapse 2 or 3 defenders toward her, and then, with a vision that belongs more to a point guard from the future than anything playing today, she would fire a perfect pass to a wide-open teammate for the easy basket. The logo threes are jaw-dropping, but the passing is just as deadly. She sees the floor at a completely different speed than anyone else on it. Her teammates love her for it. Her coaches love her for it. Her opponents dread it. Boston found out. Connecticut found out. Minnesota found out. One by one, they all found out. Then came the WNBA, and here's where the story gets really good. Because nothing about this transition was supposed to be easy. Stepping into the WNBA, Caitlin Clark faced doubts from critics, pressure from teammates, sky-high expectations that would have buckled most rookies before the first tip-off. Sports commentators were already drawing up narratives about the adjustment period, about how the college game and the professional game are 2 completely different animals, about how even great college players can struggle to find their footing in their first professional season. The athletes in the WNBA are the best in the world. These are not opponents who will let her pull up from the logo unchallenged. These are not defenses that will give her room. These are professionals who study film, who have been preparing for her, who want nothing more than to be the person who finally makes Caitlin Clark look human. She made an impact anyway. She did what she always does. Showed up, refused to be rattled, and started doing the impossible things in new environments with new defenders on new stages. The range traveled, the vision traveled, the fearlessness traveled, and the results? The results spoke louder than any skeptic ever could. The Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark in the lineup started winning. They started filling arenas. They started drawing attention and eyeballs and coverage that the franchise had not seen in years. 9 points, 7 assists in 1 game, an 11-win stretch that already tied the previous season's total record. Numbers building, momentum building, the story building with every game she played. What's that? 26 feet? Fine, 27. Does it matter? Because when Caitlin Clark pulls up from that distance in the WNBA with a professional defender doing everything right, playing good fundamental defense, closing out with a hand up, and the ball still goes in, you realize that the distance is not the point. The fearlessness is the point. The certainty is the point. The fact that she steps into that shot with the same confidence, the same body language, the same follow-through that she had in her best college moments. That is what makes it remarkable. She did not arrive in the pros and shrink. She arrived and expanded. She took up more space, hit harder shots, made bolder decisions, and dared the professional game to keep up with her. Defenders left absolutely hopeless. That phrase gets used in sports a lot, and most of the time it is hyperbole. Always, it is hype. It is the kind of language that highlight reels require. But watching Caitlin Clark work against WNBA defenses, it is not hyperbole. It is description. There are moments, genuine moments of pure defensive helplessness, where you can see on the face of the opposing player the exact moment they realize there is nothing they can do. They are in the right position. They did everything their coach told them. They studied the tape. They know her tendencies. And it still went in. She still got hers. Because at a certain level, scouting can only take you so far. At a certain point, talent that operates beyond the normal range of basketball reality cannot be fully defended. It can only be endured and hoped against. The Boston game. Let us take a moment for the Boston game, is because there were plays in that contest that had to be watched multiple times just to confirm that they actually happened. She pulled up from a spot on the floor that the arena's camera operators clearly were not expecting, because the shot barely made the frame. The crowd's reaction, that delay, that half second of collective processing, that suspended moment before the noise hit, told you everything you needed to know. Even the people who had come specifically to watch her could not fully believe what they had just seen. That is the Caitlin Clark experience. even when you are prepared for it, even when you are watching with complete attention, she still manages to exceed the expectation. Connecticut, Minnesota. Every team on that schedule had a version of the same conversation before they faced her. Get her off the three-point line. Boy, don't give her any breathing room. Make her uncomfortable. Make her go left. Make her work for every single look, and every team had a version of the same post-game conversation. She made the shot anyway. She made the contested one. She made the one off the wrong foot. She made the one where she was already falling out of bounds when she let it go. She made the one that had no business going in, and then made the next one too, just to remind everyone that the first one was not a mistake or a fluke or a prayer. It was a decision, a calm, calculated, completely confident decision by a player who knows exactly what she is capable of and operates without the limits that restrain everyone else. And then there is the international stage, because Caitlin Clark's impact does not stop at the borders of the WNBA schedule. National team duty, Olympic level conversations, a profile that has grown so large so fast that it now operates on a global scale that very few basketball players, men or women, have achieved this quickly. The world is watching. Countries that have historically had casual relationships with women's basketball are suddenly scheduling their evenings around WNBA broadcasts because Caitlin Clark is playing. That is not marketing. That is not a campaign. That is what happens when a genuine once-in-a-generation talent operates at full force in a sport that is ready, finally ready to receive and celebrate it on the biggest possible stage. Are you ready for the best moments? Because we saved some for right here, right now. And these are the ones that remind you, just in case you had somehow forgotten in the last several minutes, exactly why we started this video the way we did. Caitlin Clark is absolutely ridiculous. She is a warrior on that court. Every step she takes, every dribble she puts on the floor, every time she sizes up a defender and gives them that look, that measured, confident, completely undisturbed look. She's about to do something that will be replayed and rewatched and argued about and celebrated for years. She earned every comparison. She validated every superlative. She proved every claim that was made on her behalf before she had the platform to prove it herself. Watch this one. Watch the way she catches it at the top of the key, gives one dribble hard to the right to shift the defender's weight, comes back left, sets her feet in a fraction of a second and rises. The defender is there. The hand is up. The contest is real. It does not matter. The ball leaves her fingertips on a perfect arc, traveling a distance that makes the geometry look wrong, and it drops straight through the net without touching the rim. No drama in the shooter. Pure drama in the result. That is the signature. That is the Caitlin Clark trademark that you will spend the rest of your basketball watching life looking for every time another player picks up a ball beyond the three-point line. Watch this pass. She is driving baseline, two defenders collapsing on her, no reasonable path to the rim, and in the time it takes most players to just absorb contact and hope for a foul call, she has already identified the open teammate cutting back door, already redirected her momentum and delivered a pass that threads between two defenders at an angle that should not be physically achievable. Her teammate catches it in stride for the layup. Simple finish. Extraordinary setup. That is the full picture of what makes Caitlin Clark so impossible to defend. You cannot commit fully to stopping the shot because the pass is just as lethal. You cannot commit fully to stopping the pass because the shot is always there. She has made the perfect defensive strategy against her a logical impossibility. This is just the beginning, and that might be the most incredible part of this entire story. The fact that we are talking about a player in the earliest stages of what promises to be a career unlike anything this sport has ever seen. And she is already doing this. She is already at this level. She is already making these plays, breaking these records, drawing these crowds, changing these conversations. Imagine what is coming next. Imagine what this looks like in year 3, year 5, year 8 of a WNBA career, where she is only continuing to refine, to grow, to add dimensions to an already terrifying game. The logo threes might get longer, the passes might get sharper, the moments might get bigger, and she will be there for all of them, completely unimpressed by the stage, completely locked in on the game, completely committed to the kind of basketball that makes people fall in love with the sport all over again.